Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Jeremy, and in this video I don't think I'm going to be playing much guitar, but I'll be teaching and sharing some valuable tips that I learned from a guitar teacher I've worked with. His name is Rainer Scheurenbrand. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, it's German. But anyways, I had the pleasure of having several online lessons with him 2019, I believe. And the lessons have stuck with me to this day. So I wanted to make a video and share that in case you are looking to improve your guitar skills or have some strategies that you can bring into your guitar playing. And even if you don't play guitar, if you play any instrument or really any practice, a lot of the tips that I'm going to share are also going to help you. When I was working with Rainer, he said something at some point like, I'll teach you about life through the lens of guitar. And I think that's a very beautiful way of putting it, where a lot of experts and geniuses and masters, if they perfect one art or one craft, then often you learn so much about life through the lens of that craft. So hopefully this will be of value for you, even if you don't play guitar. And if you do play guitar, then you're going to love these tips. So let's get started. The first one I learned was decisiveness and consistency. And so he taught me to, first I showed up with a lot of my original songs, and then he totally helped me reshape them and make them sound way better. And one thing I realized is I wasn't playing them the same way each time. It was pretty similar, but he emphasized know how you want to play it and play it the same way every single time. And I experienced that as very structured, maybe masculine, sometimes militant if it's too intense, but that's something that I still learn from and I'm still practicing. Instead of just knowing the same chords, I'm going to play the same chords, but the finger picking is going to be different. Maybe I'll play the top E string, maybe I won't. Excuse me. His method is no, play it the same way each time, then you know how to play it, you can practice it, and then you play it the same way that you practice. And I like that. It's simple, you know how to practice. That being said, sometimes it's fun to flow and not play it the same way each time, but I was already doing that, so this was something new for me. So consistency, know how you're going to play it and play it the same way each time. The next practice, which is really applicable to anything in life, is practicing slowly. So slow. I would show up hoping to practice 16 measures of different licks, and we would slow down one and focus on perhaps 12 notes in a row and just play those 12 notes, maybe one measure. And it was just like, yeah, now that I knew exactly what I wanted to play, how I wanted to play it, it's like, okay, slow down. And instead of playing, I was like, and I'm pretty sure that trains a different part of your brain. And so this is something I think would be so beneficial for sports or other instruments or really anything. Like, it's a mindfulness practice then, but then it's like, okay, I could study exactly where my finger goes. Oh, this finger has to lift up at this time and then move to this string. And when you play it slow, then you can play it fast. But if you can barely play it fast, then you can probably not play it slow. And so that is something still to this day, and when I'm teaching my partner or anybody just musically, I'll always just say, slow down. It's not going to get easier when you try to play faster. In fact, it usually gets messier. So slow, and I'm talking as slow as you need to play it perfectly, and repetition, and yeah, really, really, really slow. That can be boring, but literally, I would practice just the same line for a whole week. And then I'd have another lesson with him, and then we move on to the next part where I was like, maybe we could do one song each lesson. It was like we took maybe 4 or 5 lessons just to focus on one song. So that in itself is a life lesson to cultivate patience, to enjoy the the practice. I was gonna say mundane, but I don't think it's mundane. It gets exciting. It's like it's simplifying it as well, because it's so overwhelming if you're trying to focus on this all at once. But if you slow it down, it's like building a wall. You just lay one brick down, but the whole wall can often be a little bit intimidating if you think about that. So that's number 2. Number 3 is something that is pretty obvious once you do 1 and 2, and that is to only play, this is with the left hand, the strings that you're plucking with the right hand. So basically only put your fingers where you have to. Where sometimes I was playing the whole C chord, but because I was only plucking 3 strings, I realized I didn't need to put my whole hand there. So here's another example. If I'm playing E, but if I'm only playing these strings, then it's really pointless to put my fingers here and play E. So you can just play it like this. So that's an example. I guess we did play a little bit of music. And that was something, again, I wouldn't have done that unless I really slowed down to look and say, oh, I've been putting my ring finger here and I don't even need to. And so you can simplify it. So the life lesson in that is basically cutting all the fat and sticking to the essentials. Do you need to use your pointer finger? Do you need to use any of your hands? Sometimes if it's, especially with the E minor, if you're just using the bottom 3 strings and the top one, you don't need to. So that was another valuable lesson as well. And of course it's nice, you can start with the main chord and then realize, oh, I don't use this, and then take it off. But really, it builds on the first 2, because once you know exactly what you're going to play and then you practice it, you realize exactly what fingers you use. And the more advanced you get as a guitar player, and perhaps other areas in life, then the more flexibility you have, because you know exactly, oh, I only need to play these, and then maybe you can move it up to a different fret or whatnot. But if you're trying to build it off the full chord, then you're limited in the movements of your fingers. All right. Next, this one is this is a bit more abstract, so this is for the artist and very specific to guitar. But he taught that I really enjoyed was, and I think this came in one of the songs, he was like, oh, this would be great for a guitar break here. So I was like, all right. And he's the amazing one. I'm like, just all right. And so I was kind of hoping he would give me some ideas, but he was like, no, like, what do you want to play? And his idea and suggestion for that was, think about what you want to show in an image, and then create the music that matches that vibration through sound. So I really like that. And as I went back and listened to his music, I could actually feel like, wow, this is like fire, or this is like a tornado, and this is very watery, etc. And so if you're playing with the elements, it can help. But also, I had a song where he told me not to tell anybody. He's like, this is just for you, but I'm sharing it here. The image I had was like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon and then flying. And so that's something that I like, because one is very creative, and to me it gets me out of my head of like, oh, what do I gotta play? Rather, it's like, of course, once I do the steps and practice and know exactly where, then instead of thinking about practicing, I go back to the image and say, all right, now I'm the butterfly, and I feed the music with that image that I'm portraying. It's like a projection of energy through sound. So that was a new concept for me, where I was used to trying to practice how I played. This helps me, and I think it's a lot more right brain as well. Just, okay, what do I want to portray in this song, in this segment, in this solo, in this chorus, etc. And I still use that to this day, which I use all of these, but this one actually is a good reminder for me, especially when the songs aren't mine. It's like, what's my intention? What do I want to create when I share this, when I sing this? So visual storytelling, it's great. All right, the last three. Number 5 is to play the melody and the bass line together. So this blends into number 6 as well, but basically once you get an adequate plucking style and you can do a bunch of different things, there's the basics of, I'm going to play my guitar again. So maybe the basics is just like, or whatever. There's all those different, what are they called? Arpeggios, I think that's the word. So you use your fingers, you're plucking along. But what he really emphasized, and I've been doing this since, is to play the melody with the bass line. And especially if you lead, you want people to sing along, it's really helpful for other people so they can pick up the melody first, and then even if they're not conscious of it, they've heard it, and so it's easier for them to sing along. So this came up because I mentioned how I sing with my partner, my wife, June. She's an amazing singer. She's on the channel. Maybe not for a while, but she's on the channel. If you search around, you can check it out. And sometimes she has a hard time learning the melody as fast as me. She's an amazing singer, but she can sing a little bit off key sometimes. And so in that, his idea was to always sing the melody. That way she's used to hearing it. And then even if it's a song she's never heard before, if we're playing it for the first time, or I'm playing it for the first time with her and I want her to sing along, by playing the melody, it primes her to be able to sing along. And so that is something that requires a lot of practice and creativity and how to play the melody. And sometimes it's, for me at least, it's not possible to play it exactly, but to be as close as I can. And then leading into the number 6 tip is to play the melody with the bass line. So if there's a bass line, then you can combine that with the melody. And I had showed up with my song We Are One, where I have a nice bass line, and then he was like, we got to add the melody. And I was like, no, but that's too much. The bass line's already intense and rhythmic, and I won't be able to put 2 and 2 together. Segue tip number 6, which is work towards perfection. Know how you want it to sound and practice it until it sounds like that. This is completely different than my mentality. I'm more of a 80-20 type guy. I'm like, all right, let's just get it to sound good, and then it's good enough. And each time I play it, it'll be a little bit different. No. With his German precision and experience, he's like, no, you can definitely do this. And so with that song, We Are One, that's the one I broke down, and I probably practiced it every day for maybe 8 weeks. And it took me a while to get down the thumb and the melody, the bass line, the melody. And then it just sounds so great. And it's like now every time I play it, it's it's natural. I can go to the vision. For me, it's that one. It's kind of like I picture like clouds and a rainbow and like sun and angels and this very floaty, mystical, bright scene. But the lesson there is know how you want it to sound and then go for it. I was easy to say, it already sounds pretty good. I don't want to practice. Like, not even that. It was just I didn't have it in my mental bandwidth to think that I could play it. But from where he's sitting, like, anything's possible. You can play anything. And so that was a big paradigm shift. Where for me, I'm like, let's just play it as nicely as I can, maybe fool around with it, and then present it as it is. He works from the top, and he's like, okay, how do I want it to sound? And then practice until it sounds like that. And so that in itself is a big paradigm shift, which I'm not fully on board on, if I'm going to be completely honest. Because some of the things that come through in my mind, I'm like, wow, that'd be amazing. I was like, but my fingers can't do that. Like, it could take me a year to figure out how to play that, and I'll have to like learn from all these different sources how to do that. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, I have this amazing idea of how I want it to sound, and I'm gonna admit that I don't need to, I can just flow with where I'm at. Where he's coming from this place, like, know how you want it to sound, and then practice to get it to sound like that. And so it was really challenging my mental mindset, my beliefs. I would show up and tell him, anytime I would doubt, I don't know if I can play this. Like, oh, sure you can. And I was actually amazed that things that I thought I wasn't going to be able to play, or I told myself, oh, it's going to take 6 months, didn't take nearly as long as I thought. I actually learned one of his songs called Nana, which is really challenging. And it took me maybe like a month to get it. And I thought it was going to take me a year. So it just shows me how I'm blocking myself from my capacity, where I tell myself, it's going to take a year, and really it only took a month. Or I told myself I can't do it, and then I realized the first week I'm struggling, and then the second week I'm like, I definitely can do this, and then third, fourth week I'm like, oh, I got it. So to me that's like a mindset thing, and that's something I'm still working on. It's just like there's this thing with music, once you hear it, it sounds way harder. But then once you actually slow it down and try to practice it, you start to realize, oh, I can actually play this. So I'm sure I would be the same with anything. It's like learning to cook or piano or drums. It's like it can seem overwhelming and super distant, but then once you kind of build the building blocks and say one step at a time, you can realize, oh, this is actually possible. And so yeah, that's like really this, what do you want it to sound like? It's like you can take it wherever you want. Where for me, I was working from like, okay, here's my capabilities. Let's make it sound within my capabilities so that it's pretty easy to play. I don't have to practice too much, and I can just show up and be pretty much consistent. Instead, it's like, how do I want it to sound? And then there is almost an obligation, a requirement, or a challenge to practice and expand your skill set so that you can play that. So to me, that's pretty powerful. That's pretty powerful. Which leads us to number 7, the last tip that I learned, and that is the practice never ends. Never ending practice. This guy is probably the best guitar player I've ever spoken to, and he practices way more than anyone else I know. It makes sense when you think about it, but I would like to think, I get to a certain point and it's just like easy, casual, etc. He said, he has to like practice his songs, his older songs, and that's when I was like, wow, that's next level. And it's not like he was always practicing these super difficult, challenging ones. He said he would often just do like very basic, scales, or dun 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 dun, just really slowing it down. And yeah, that intimidated me, to be honest. I'm like, I just want to have fun and like get great at guitar, and realizing, wow, it's a lifestyle, really. And yeah, the practice never ends. That can be a bit daunting for me. It's like the thought I have to go back and relearn my own songs. It's like I spend a month trying to practice this introduction. Then if 2 years goes by and I don't play that song, coming back to it, I have to practice again. And so what it does is it maintains this high bar, but it also includes a lot of work. And so that's the balance that personally I'm still figuring out. It's like I'm at the point where I don't play guitar as much as I used to, and so I'm actually forgetting songs and forgetting licks and forgetting melodies that I used to be able to know how to play. And that's why the practice never ends. Even if I'm learning a new song, if I go back and then I'm like, oh wow, I totally don't know how to play this right now, and then boom, starting over in a way. So that can be a bit frustrating in my experience, but ultimately that's part of the game, I guess. And also very applicable to life. the practice never ends. In Buddhism, I think they call it the beginner's mind, just coming back, being an initiate, just coming back to the moment, coming back to what's new, coming back to fresh and a clean slate. And I think the greatest artists and creators and innovators are able to do that. So there you have it, the 7 tips from Rainer about guitar that I learned with my time working with him. I hope this video helped you. I'm pretty confident at least one of those would be new or inspiring or a reminder for you. Still would love to hear about it in the comments if you want to leave a comment below and let me know which one stands out and wants to be your focus. And please, if you like this video, just hit like and subscribe and check out my other videos and music so you can hear me doing my best to implement the 7 tips. I guess they were on my phone, now they're in this video. Doing my best to implement those into my music. And if this video helps you, it inspires you to upgrade your music, please send me a progress video. I would love to check it out. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an amazing day, and keep playing, keep shining, keep smiling. Peace.